Thank you for listening. This is Getting to Know You, a podcast introducing Jewish Federation of the Desert CEO Ellen Potash to leaders, influencers, and people of interest in the Coachella Valley. I'm Jeff Hocker, and I'm joined here with my co-host, Ellen Potash. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Jeff. I'm proud to be your co-host, although you're really the host. I just take the co-part of it by having you bring people in to talk about it.
We've really had great guests.
We have. So who do we have today?
Ellen Goodman. She is the director for the Foundation for the Palm Springs Unified School District.
Hi, guys.
Ellen, nice to meet you. Thank you for being in our offices.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that you have to wear a sweater today and to stay warm. It is cold outside.
Well, I'm actually loving it because I'm from the East Coast, so I got to pull out my winter gear, which it's been a couple of years. Dust it off.
I'm impressed that you could find your winter gear. We've been out here a year and I can't find my winter gear. So it's still in a box.
Oh, you haven't unpacked it yet.
Who needs winter gear in Palm Springs?
Yeah, today we do.
It's very cold. So this podcast is really an opportunity for me to learn about people, as you heard from the intro, that do great things in the community. And Jeff has told me so many great things about you. So I just want to hear, how did you end up in Palm Springs or in the area?
How did I end up here? I was living in San Francisco, and I must say that as lovely as San Francisco is, the day I arrived, I tried to plan my escape.
Okay.
That took 15 years. And when I saw the opening, I thought, I'm going to a smaller market in a warmer climate. Talking about the cold weather, I can handle 4 seasons, but San Francisco with all that fog, oh my goodness. I think I had stock in North Face outfits, and at least particularly in sweaters, jackets, and scarves. So I was planning my escape. I wanted to leave. And when the time came for me to really look at other markets, my sister sent me a link to the job that was posted for the Palm Springs Unified School District. They were looking for a foundation director, and it would be their inaugural director.
Oh, really?
And I thought that was very interesting since I've spent my life in startups in business and startups in nonprofit. So I thought, oh, this will be interesting. So I threw my hat in the ring, and here I am.
And they took a risk on you not being a local person to start a foundation? That's incredible. That's a testament to your background.
Well, thanks. They actually incorporated their nonprofit earlier on, but they did not have staff. So I would have been the first staff person. And yeah, they did take a risk. Isn't that interesting? They did.
And you've been here
I didn't think about it that way.
Well, I come from an environment where we like to recruit people from within. And I have found that there's not a lot of within in the Palm Springs area, in the sense of, well, it's such a transient community that you need to look outside to find good people. But with a school district, you'd think that you'd have quite a few good candidates within the district to take on a role like that.
Okay, good point. So they did have some local candidates. They were very clear, the school district was very clear that an employee from the school district that might have been an academic individual wouldn't necessarily be a nonprofit individual. So they really thought about that. So it does open the way school districts work. They open up the jobs to their internal community, and they will go through that process. And then they will open it up to the external community. Now, that position wasn't necessarily advertised nationwide, so it's not like they went on a national search. I do believe it was really a local, and it just so happens that my sister, who's an amazing researcher, as I was looking at markets that had smaller communities and that were in warmer climates, this was one of the markets. So my sister was doing the due diligence of looking in a variety of different markets, and she sent me the link.
Where does your sister live?
Baltimore.
That's great research.
Yes.
We can talk about Baltimore, but you made a comment that is something that I try to educate people on all the time. The nonprofit world is what it is. It's an industry that's unique compared to other industries. You use the word markets, but if you're a business person, then you think you can run a nonprofit. It's very difficult. And if you're an academic, which you refer to as somebody with the school district, it's also very difficult to run a nonprofit. You come into the mindset of doing things one way, and a nonprofit is more like a chameleon. in a sense that you have to have so many different skills and understanding of how different people operate and work and how funding works and how budgets work, that it's not easy for somebody who hasn't lived in a nonprofit environment to lead that type of organization. So I'm making an assumption that you have a strong nonprofit background.
I do, but I also have a business background. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoy, and what might make me unique is that I continue to layer business models and business strategies into the world of nonprofit.
What came first for you, business or nonprofit?
Business.
What kind of business?
Franchising, specifically. And if you think about it, franchising is like running small businesses, right? And so they're community-based. I mean, there's some strategies. So in franchising, you don't want 12 McDonald's owners or 12, Subway owners in a market. You want one owner who can own 12 stores. Right. And so you really work with the scaling of that. So they might start with something quite small, and then you work with them in franchising. What I did was I worked with them to build their capacity and then ultimately to scale their business. And so when I look at nonprofits that do social service work, so not national nonprofits, but it could work the same way in national. I've worked for 3 national nonprofits and an international. And so it does work the same way, but your demographics, your scale is much larger, right? But you basically want to scale, and you want to be able to have a central hub, and then you want your services to impact the individuals outside of that hub. So it's very similar.
Do you enjoy what you're doing?
I love it.
Your enthusiasm is great, and I just like how you described that method of going from business to nonprofit using the franchise model. I've looked at my work in the Jewish world is similar to that, in the fact that the Jewish world is the franchise, and each of the different organizations are the entities. We each have our own identity and our own constituents or marketplace or product, but yet we have something in common. And that something in common is the unified role of how we make a difference in the Jewish world. Which is why I've worked with Jewish nonprofits for over 30 years, because that's my anchor. Whether it's the Federation or the ADL or Hillel or JCCs, those are all what you would call part of the franchise market, but the goal and the mission is the same.
It would be great if each of those organizations that you mentioned actually had a center or a central hub that can support all of those markets, which I don't know if they do.
Well, I'm going to blow your mind. As we talked earlier, my community in Omaha the Federation became that central hub
for the agencies.
For all of those agencies.
And federations always did.
Yeah. Well, not all of them. Some of them. This one is unique. This is primarily a fundraising and allocations operation. Right. The Federation in Omaha oversaw everything from the JCC to the nursing home and everything in between, which is unusual, but it's becoming more of the norm because of the cost of running an organization.
So when you say they oversaw, it was almost as if it was a program inside.
Correct.
Right. That's very good. So like, for example, Federation back east, I'm familiar with in DC or in Maryland or in San Francisco, they're a central hub, but they aren't, they don't act like programs, or that they don't treat it like they're running programs, but they are the technical assistants, right? And so they provide that TA and they provide other support to those agencies. They'll supply money to those agencies as far as allocation of funds, but they're not the central agency that holds the funds for other nonprofits.
Right.
Which it sounds like your Omaha model became that.
So there's a model out there for federations like Omaha called functional federations or integrated federations, where the federation is the umbrella for the whole Jewish entities outside of the synagogues, though some federations support synagogues. But the one in Omaha, it really was the umbrella for all the different Jewish organizations. I thought it was great. It was a very meaningful time of my life as a professional to be responsible for everything from a preschool to a nursing home. Even though I had directors in each of those different components, I had to know the ins and outs of accreditations of preschool and certification and surveys for nursing homes. And when the state
Tough
comes
stuff.
in and says, I want to check you out, you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID, it was a very interesting time period. And coming out here is it's like being in paradise and being liberated to just do great things for the community.
This is an extraordinary community. I remember when I came for the interview, so I came in from San Francisco for the first round of interviews, and I had been here just periodically while I was living in San Francisco. I didn't even know about I knew about Palm Springs when I was growing up because of I Love Lucy. I hate to say that, but it was like when I Love Lucy, when they came out west, I was glued to the television, right? I watched them in Palm Springs. Otherwise, I had never heard about Palm. I grew up going to Atlantic City. I knew nothing about Palm Springs. I moved out to San Francisco. I still didn't know about Palm Springs, but it was San Francisco that introduced me to Palm Springs. And when I really considered applying, and then when I began the interview process, I could tell that this community was a community, one, that I'd be personally happy in, and two, professionally, I felt like I could have success here. There's something about the giving, the willingness, and at all levels, not just our lead philanthropists, but at the very basic level of people just want to do something. They want to have the best life possible, and they want to make a difference any way they can.
They want to share that good life.
Even if they feel that in their own interpretation they don't have a good life, they're still willing to give to make it a good life for somebody else, or to make it easier for someone else.
Even if it's just their time.
Totally. Most of it, it's their time. If we look at a pyramid, a funding or fundraising pyramid, the philanthropy in the Valley sits at the very tippy top, but we still have that basic point of entry. We ran a shoe campaign for homeless students. So Palm Springs Unified has about 21,500 kids. And in the state of California, nationwide,
that's a good size number.
It's a nice size school. It's declining. It's been declining all over the country, and it's declining here in our valley. So when I first came to the desert, we had about 25,000 students. So every year it's kind of
this is K through 12.
K through 12 public school. And birth rates are down, and people are leaving California. there's a lot of reasons, things that we're seeing. So we have about since COVID, our numbers of homeless students went to 12%. It's always hovered around 10, but it went up to 12. And homeless is unsheltered, or they're sharing an address, right? So it's not 2,100 kids that are unsheltered,
right.
But they're sharing an address, or they might be in a motel or something like that. So the one thing school district budgets can't do, and that's what the foundation does. The foundation raises funds for programs and projects that school budgets can't cover, or that is severely underfunded. And underfunded is like this. I could go into some data and some statistics about how poor California is registering its funding levels for kids. It's just, considering it's a state that feels it's the fifth largest economy and could be its own country, it only gives about $13,000 per student, where New York State gives $22,000, right? So, California is really underfunding its public education. Okay, so school budgets are not allowed to provide resources like shoes. So we ran a campaign last year to buy tennis shoes for our homeless kids, 2,100 pair of shoes. And I'm going to tell you, the donors that stepped up with the $10, the $15, the $20, we bought Converse tennis shoes. We worked with Converse. They were very, very generous. They made one of the largest gifts to us. And then we just went and asked everybody to match whatever.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you, $10, $15, $20. People felt so good they could buy a kid a pair of shoes. So I think it's a very generous community.
So you lead me into the question that I was going to ask you before you describe that. What is the main goal, or what's the main mission of the foundation?
So it's threefold. The very first thing we do is we raise funds for projects and programs district budgets don't cover. The second thing that we do is that we help to incubate, or what one might call, we're an accelerator. Because if the school district isn't funding something and the foundation raises the money for it, then what we do is we look to pilot, to do the beta testing. And we'll raise the money until we actually have proof of concept. Once we have proof of concept, it rolls into the district. That's one thing. The other thing is it might already be in the district, and the foundation will raise the funds for that, and then we will partner and support that while they're going through their proof of concept and their beta testing, and continue to raise money for it until it is totally funded and absorbed by the district.
Can you give an example of one of those projects?
Yeah, I can give you 2 examples if you don't mind.
Please.
The first one is, this is a great example. It is an elementary school recess program, and it's called Playworks. And the local name that we have called it is Game On. It was seeded by one of our local philanthropists. This particular program is in kindergarten through 5th grade, so it's in our elementary schools. We have 16 of them. This is a nationwide program. It did not exist here. We brought it here as outside individuals. We didn't ask the organization to come in and set up house and bring it. What we do is we place a recess coach on every playground, and that recess coach organizes play on playgrounds so that kids can be constantly involved in play during their recess versus either a free-for-all or some kids aren't playing, some kids might be getting into trouble, right? And then another thing I'll say is when you have a high poverty area, now shockingly where it's a $1.3 million average house price in Palm Springs, the poverty level at the school district is about 98%. And that's 98% of the kids qualify for free lunch. The way to do that.
Of the 21,000 kids, 98% qualify for free reduced lunch.
Yes. And so what happens is some of the difference between a low-income school and a high-income school is a low-income school, kids don't really understand and they don't have the resources to understand how to express frustration or anger, and so it can often turn into pushing, hitting, bullying, whatever's going on in the playground.
Stuff that I went through in elementary school.
Right, exactly. In a high net worth community, the kids feel like they have the authority to do it. Like, they have the right. They have the access. I'm going to push you. I'm going to hit you. I'm better than you. But kids that don't understand, it's different. So on the playground, all kinds of things can erupt and go crazy. So you put a coach on the playground. You set up 10 stations. They rotate. They revolve around. They can play wonderful games. And now you also have a coach who's playing with them. Mm-hmm. And this is a key thing. It's different than somebody who's standing there with a whistle. So now you have a young person who loves recess and they love kids and they're playing. I will tell you, you will get 100% participation on a playground. You will have fewer referrals to the office. You'll have higher attendance. It's unbelievable. And it's scientifically data driven. So there's all kinds of research.
And it's cool stuff like obstacle courses, and we did the parachute thing.
Oh, wasn't that fabulous?
Yeah.
We had so much fun. Yeah, they used to come to the run every year. So the foundation seeded it. The foundation ran the project out of our offices until we got to the point where it was beyond our capacity. There was so much demand in our schools for it. And today, after we raised $1 million to do proof of concept and to scale it, the school district took it on fully. They fully pay for it now. It's in every single elementary school.
That's incredible.
So that is an example. I'll give you another example where it doesn't live in our office, but we're seeding that. So the school district piloted, they paid for a beta test for a drone camp. And we can get into a whole conversation around drones. It was such a success, and we know drones are the future. And in this valley, there are like 18 different verticals or 18 different markets in which drones are being used at. And you can come out, all you need, you can get a student FAA license, right, to fly a drone.
Yeah.
Or you can go once you graduate school and you can spend 200 hours and you can get a full drone license and just be employed. Okay, so the school district kicked off a drone camp this summer to test it. It was such a hit. They came to the foundation. We had meetings. They want to do 5 drone camps. And this is a way to introduce kids to the world of drones and then launch after-school drone clubs. So the foundation raised the money for the 5 drone camps. And the schools run the drone clubs. And our tech department, they support the drone camps. but they then do their drone clubs. So this is an example.
That's really incredible. I think that, as you said, the drones are the way of the future. Just think about all the things that are being shot down in space right now, but how many of those have been student drones? But let's not go into that. So tell me, what's the makeup of the foundation? What's the budget? How do you raise money? How big is your staff? What are your needs?
Oh, we're very lean. We trended about $1 million, somewhere between, I'd say, $1 million, 1.2 or 1.3. This year we're having a banner year, and so we're looking at finishing our year somewhere in $3 million, but it's a banner year. Most of the money that we raise is individual. We are not an event-driven organization, and the grants that are available to us in the Valley couldn't sustain the budget, and so it's really individually driven. We have, right now there's two of us on staff. We're usually a staff of 3, but we've had somebody out on extended medical, and it's been very, very stressful because there's 2 of us running an agency that really probably needs 4 people. We have a board of, right now we have 17 members on our board of directors. And we look like every other board in the sense where we have committees and groups, and they're out doing various things and different things. Let's see.
And help engaging their businesses, constituents, to raise funds for the foundation.
So your board members raise funds?
Well, we would like them to.
Can you say a
Make
little louder?
connections.
It's a goal.
I think it's a goal of all of our nonprofits.
Yeah.
The board members should be raising money. Some do and some don't.
Right. And, yes. And so we have our board. So we have board. And I think that the board, when you think about it, because we are not direct service provider, our board looks very, very different. The other thing is, and I think this is what makes this model the most unique across the country, because there's education foundations all across the country. And all the research that we've done, and actually an outside group made a comment, and this was a group that was a search firm that was looking for a superintendent. This was a couple of years ago. And when they found out about our foundation and the model of our foundation, they said they have not seen that in any other school district that they had worked in. And we haven't seen it in many other school districts as well, if any at all. And that is our school district, when I say they own and operate, we are all school district employees. So myself and my staff, we are school district employees. I report to the superintendent of education, and our foundation board and our school board work together. We meet every single month in subcommittees with the superintendent. So the school district underwrites all of the operating expenses. So they'll pay for the audits, they pay our salaries, our benefits, all of that, so that all the money that's raised goes right to the program.
That's
exactly.
great.
And that's a very unique model.
Yeah.
So we work really, really very closely with it. And that also, because we're school district employees, the board does not employ the staff or the executive director.
So you're supervised by the superintendent?
Yes.
Well, I think that's good, because then they really intrinsically understand how to support you. You may get board members on that don't understand the dynamics of a school district. So, yeah, I think that's a great model.
That's a very interesting point. The foundation board is there to support all the efforts of the foundation. Exactly. Yeah. They're really not getting into the politics of, staffing and that kind of operations.
That's a unique nonprofit model. Mm-hmm. That's clearly unique. So, but the board hired you, not the superintendent?
Superintendent hired me.
You.
Superintendent reviews me.
Yeah. When your sisters sent you the link for the job, was your first interview with the superintendent or with the board of directors?
Oh, that was very interesting. So the school district has a very interesting way of doing things because it's a government agency, right? And so I walk into my first interview, and there's a panel, and it's set up like a horseshoe. Yep. And there's a seat in the middle of the horseshoe, like a table, a seat, a cup of water. And I was like, oh my God, where am I? But I will also say the most diverse group of individuals were sitting at that table, more diverse than I've seen in this valley. They were all sitting at that table. They did a very good job. And I don't know, there had to be 10 people at the table, and they all had questions, and we went around round robin, and they all rated, and there were multiple interviews.
But that seems more like the nonprofit hiring process that I'm used to. Is you first are evaluated by a committee of people, and then that goes to another committee, and then that goes to another committee, and then somebody has to write the agreement with you.
Yeah.
But I think it's really neat. I really don't know much about the Palm Springs School District. Can you give me a sense of how many schools are there? There are 21,000 kids. How many high schools? How many middle school? How many elementary schools?
So we have 27 campuses, 16 elementary. We have 1 K through 8, which is a charter. We have 4 high schools. We have an alternative school. We have 5 middle schools. We have and an online school.
How often do you go into a school to see what's going on?
Oh, I go all the time.
Yeah, is that the best?
It's the best.
Middle school, right?
Well, I go into all of them.
Just a little background. I was an artist in the schools in Nebraska for several years, and I loved going into the elementary schools because the kids' eyes just open
They're so
up.
cute.
Yeah, they're cute, and they want to create things and make a mess.
Well, I think they all want to create things. I think whether they're in middle or high school, if they're artists and they're in art, they want to create.
Yeah. The boundaries are different in elementary school.
Yeah, the structure is different.
Not that I'd want to go back and be an elementary school teacher like my mother was, but it was always fun to be in the classroom with the kids.
Yeah, it's very fun. As a matter of fact, I got a call yesterday. I love working with the schools. I got a call yesterday from a campus that we work with, and they were so excited to say that they are working with Desert X and Around the Art, and they have this big project, and they were looking for volunteers now and looking for support, and we do a lot of work with this particular campus, and it's just so exciting to get calls from people to say, "Oh my God, we've got something we think you and your board's going to love, and all your your donors and so forth." So it's kind of fun.
So to wrap this up, I have 2 questions, and maybe Jeff has 1 or 2. What do you love most about the area, and what do you see the challenges of the area? So first question: what do you love most about being in the Coachella Valley?
That's really a hard question. One, well, I love the environment. So, right, I love the weather, I love the scenery, I love everything I experience. I love the people. I absolutely love the people. I see all the diversity in the valley. So for me, I feel like I tap into that. And so it does provide me that sense of diversity. So I really enjoy that. I love the entertainment. I love the culture. Yes, I love the tourists, even though it takes me longer to get across town. But I love the people that come in because I think they add some richness. They add richness in conversation and ideas. I love everything about it.
And a lot of people always say, too, the close proximity to major cities. You can easily drive in for the day, San Diego, LA, and get all of that you want and then come back.
And you know what? It has everything I want here. And so I get a chance to travel, so I get to go to New York and I get to go to DC, and I get to go. As a matter of fact, I avoid LA, but I tend to go back east, like if I want that. But I think it has I don't go out to other cities looking for other things.
I would agree with that. I've only been here a year. I just wish some of the drivers on 111 would speed up or slow down properly. Nobody goes the speed limit here.
Well, but our city council rep that we just talked to said that they're in the process of synchronizing
their lights.
all of the lights.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's going to get better.
I think you have to synchronize the drivers first.
That's true.
So I think our valley has challenges. For me, one of the challenges that I'm feeling like I care really deeply about is I'm really concerned about the economic engine, the economic growth. And I guess when I think about that, like what concerns me the most is attracting business. And since I'm in education, I think about all of our graduates. About 50% of the kids end up going to post-secondary, whether that is a 2-year college or a 4-year college. 50%. That means 50.
That's pretty low.
That's very low. As a matter of fact, the numbers are really low, where it's 21% go to 4-year college and 27% go to a 2-year college. And so...
Is that economics or is that academics?
I think one of the obstacles that kids face is economics. And so they make those choices. The other thing is families. They don't want to leave. I think it's all the more reason why we need CSUSB, Cal State San Bernardino and Palm Desert to really become a full-fledged campus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that they bus, but it's a limitation, and they're really not reaching out to our kids, and we're not pushing our kids, saying, hey, this is an option. You can go to this school right here in your neighborhood and take a bus one day a week to 50 miles away. So it's attracting businesses, attracting future businesses and corporations, knowing what they are, making sure that our kids that stay in the Valley understand more than what I'll call storefront jobs, right? So they know what the storefront jobs are. I've done a ton of focus groups, and we have mentor programs. They know the retail, they know there's hospitality, and they know there's medical, but they have no idea how to navigate that so that they can make a family wage that will build generational wealth.
Yeah.
And so I'm fine if this valley just wants to be a tourist destination and a second home destination, which of course it's growing and it is, but I feel concerned that our valley is not looking at this particular market to be able to move them up. And I think there's other industries out there that we should be looking at that we're not. So I think that's probably, for me, that's one of my biggest concerns.
I think that's a great thought. I'm just thinking in my head now as you describe the landscape of businesses and opportunities. You're right. There aren't a lot of positions out here for somebody to have a job that secures them into the future and builds wealth. There isn't an engineering firm or a high-tech firm or anything that I see.
I think there are.
We just don't see them.
Right, that's what, they're not storefront. So
Right.
the storefront is the most obvious.
Right.
But there are engineering firms. There really aren't tech firms out here. Like, not that we're used to in larger markets, but there are pockets where kids, young people, can actually work and move up if they actually knew how to move up, if they, had some of those resources. And I don't think their families can provide it necessarily. The schools can't, do everything. So they have limitations on providing it. But I do think there's opportunities for other industries to come here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd like to learn more about that. I want to thank you for taking time today away from your work at the foundation and for telling me a little bit more about things I need to know about this area. But one, I really enjoyed getting to know you. We didn't even talk about your life in Baltimore. I enjoyed The Wire.
I grew up Orthodox.
You did? Oh, we didn't even touch the Jewish stuff.
I lived in Israel.
Oh, really? Where did you live in Israel?
Tel Aviv. Ramat Aviv.
Yeah, sure. When was this?
97, 98.
And what did you do in Israel?
I worked for the Israeli AIDS Foundation.
I didn't know there was one, but thank you for sharing that with
Israeli
me.
AIDS Task Force, it was called. And I was placed there through the world, who was I placed there? The New Israel Fund.
Oh, the New Israel Fund.
I was placed there by the New Israel Fund. I went on a program.
Did you enjoy your time there?
Loved it.
Isn't it the best?
It's the best.
I lived in Israel for 5 years.
It's the
I
best.
miss every day of it. Oh. Don't tell the board. Don't tell the board that. But no, I think Israel is a challenging and rewarding place at the same
It's
time.
fantastic.
And we'll have to have you back sometime and talk more about that. Jeff, you want to take us out?
This has been Getting to Know You. Thank you for listening. This podcast can be found on Apple Podcast and other podcast forums. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you,
guys.
Jeff. Thank you, Ellen. It was great getting to know you.